do not scroll, do not skip, because right now, in this exact second, heaven is interrupting your day on purpose, not to give you a general message that floats in every direction, a specific one that was prepared for the person who has been doubted, the person who has been underestimated by people who did not have the discernment to see what God placed inside them, the person who has carried the weight of other people's low expectations while quietly, faithfully, continuing to move forward anyway. If that is you, do not move. Because what Archangel Michael is about to release over your life in this message is going to change the way you see every single moment of the season you have been in. Something is rising. You can feel it, even if you cannot name it. A shift in the atmosphere around your life. A sense that something that has been held back is beginning to move. A quiet certainty that keeps returning even when circumstances try to argue against it. That feeling is not wishful thinking. That feeling is heaven showing your spirit what is already true in the realm where decisions are made before they appear in the visible. What is rising is you, and the people who doubted you are about to witness something they have no category for. Stay right here. Do not skip. What is coming next in this message will reach the part of you that the doubt tried to reach first. You know what being doubted feels like from the inside. Not the surface discomfort of someone questioning a decision or challenging an idea. The deeper thing, the specific experience of having someone look at your life, at your gifts, at your vision, at the direction you were moving, and decide in their assessment that it was not going to amount to what you believed it would, and then communicate that assessment, sometimes directly, with words that landed harder than they were probably intended to land. Sometimes through absence, through the withdrawal of support that you noticed even when it was never explicitly stated. Sometimes through a pattern of responses that made it clear what they actually believed, even when they said the polite version of something different. The doubters in your life were not all strangers. The ones that stayed with you, the ones whose voices you can still hear in the quiet moments, those were the ones close enough to have known better. Family who questioned whether the thing you were building was real. Friends who slowly stopped asking about your progress because somewhere along the way they had privately concluded there was no progress worth asking about. Mentors or colleagues or people in positions of influence who looked at what you were bringing and decided it was insufficient. Not always cruelly, sometimes with genuine care in the delivery. But the content of the message was the same. We do not see this happening the way you believe it is going to happen. And here is the part that made it most difficult. There were moments when you were not entirely sure they were wrong. Not because your belief in your assignment disappeared, but because the gap between what you carried in your spirit and what was visible in your circumstances was wide enough that doubt had room to enter. The vision was clear on the inside. The evidence on the outside was thin, and the people looking at the outside were making their judgments from what they could see. And what they could see was not yet the thing itself. It was only the process of becoming the thing. And becoming rarely looks impressive to people who can only evaluate arrival. Do not scroll. Archangel Michael says stay right here. What is being released over your life in this moment is connected to everything you have been holding in the waiting. Stay until the end. There is something heaven needs you to understand about the doubt that was directed at you. Something that changes the entire meaning of it when you see it from the angle that God sees it from. The doubt was not evidence that you were wrong about your assignment. It was evidence that your assignment was real enough to be perceived as a threat to people whose comfort depended on certain things staying a certain way. Nobody seriously doubts something that is not worth doubting. Nobody invests the energy of sustained skepticism in something they genuinely believe is insignificant. The fact that people doubted you with consistency and sometimes with urgency is itself a form of testimony that what you were carrying was real enough to register as something worth opposing. Think about that. The very intensity of the doubt directed at you was an inverted confirmation of your calling. People doubt loudly what threatens them quietly. And what you carry threatened the arrangements, the assumptions, the comfortable hierarchies that the doubters had organized their sense of the world around. If you succeeded, if what you believed about your life turned out to be accurate, it would require them to revise things they had decided about you, about themselves, about what is possible for certain kinds of people in certain kinds of circumstances. And revision is uncomfortable. And people will doubt aggressively to protect themselves from the discomfort of having to revise. So the doubt was never really about you, it was about them. About what your rising would cost them in terms of the story they had been telling. And the rising is coming anyway. And the cost is going to be paid. Not by you, by the limitations they imposed on their own vision when they decided that what they could see was all there was to see. Stay with me. Do not move. The revelation that is going to set something permanently free in your spirit is still coming. Do not skip. I want to tell you what has been happening behind the scenes while you were being doubted, because the season of doubt was not a season of nothing. It looked like nothing from the outside. It felt like too little from the inside. But in the invisible realm, in the place where God assembles the things that eventually arrive in the visible, that season was one of the most active periods in the entire history of your destiny. While people were looking at your life and concluding that the thing you believed in was not going to materialize, heaven was building the infrastructure for its arrival. While the doubters were updating their private assessments of your ceiling, God was removing the ceiling entirely and replacing it with an open sky. While the voices around you were cataloging what was not happening, heaven was arranging what was about to happen with a precision and a care that the doubters would never have invested in your story, even if they had believed in it completely. The delays that the doubters used as evidence that you were wrong were actually calibrations. Heaven was ensuring that what arrived in your life arrived at the exact moment when you would be ready to receive it and carry it without being destroyed by it. The version of the blessing that would have arrived earlier would have been smaller, not because God is stingy, but because you were still being enlarged to the size of what was coming. The process of enlargement required the waiting, and the waiting required the doubt, because being doubted by people whose opinion you valued was one of the specific refining fires that burned away the parts of your motivation that were about proving yourself to others. And what remained after that burning, the pure version of why you were moving toward your calling, is the version of you that can carry what is coming without the weight of other people's validation attached to it. You are ready now. The enlargement is complete. And what was always coming is now arriving. To receive what Archangel Michael is releasing over your life in this moment, go to the comments right now and type, "I am rising." Let your declaration be the agreement between your spirit and what heaven is confirming over you today. Do it now and then stay with me. The specific word about what your rising is going to look like is still ahead. Let me tell you about the rise. Because this is not a general encouragement toward better days. This is a specific description of what is already in motion for your life. Archangel Michael does not deal in generalities. When heaven sends a word, it is precise. And what is being released over you right now is precise. The first dimension of your rising is the emergence of what you have been building in private. There is something you have been working on, developing, carrying, investing in that has not yet been seen by the people who need to see it. You have been in a season of private construction, building in rooms that no one had access to, developing in areas that the doubters never looked because they had already decided there was nothing there to look at. What was built in that private season is about to become visible. Not because you force it into the light, because the light is coming to it, because the timing that heaven set for its emergence has arrived. And when it becomes visible, when the thing you were building in private suddenly appears in public, the gap between what the doubters expected and what is actually there is going to be undeniable. The second dimension of your rising is the opening of doors that were specifically designated for your name. not doors that are generally open and available to anyone who works hard enough. Doors that were created for the specific combination of who you are and what you carry and where you are going. Doors that could not have opened at any earlier point in your journey because the earlier version of you would have walked through them unprepared. These doors are opening now. Some of them are going to open in ways that feel almost too convenient, too specifically timed, too precisely aligned with what you needed at exactly this moment. That precision is not coincidence. It is appointment. And the appointments have been on heaven's calendar for longer than you know. The third dimension of your rising is the repositioning of your influence. There are people who need what you carry. People who are in a season where the specific gifts and the specific perspective and the specific experience that you bring is exactly what is required to move them forward. Up until now, the path between you and those people has had obstacles, circumstances that kept the connection from happening, timing that was slightly off, intermediaries who were not positioned to make the introduction. Those obstacles are being removed. The path is being cleared, and the connections that are about to form between you and the people who need what you carry are going to produce fruit that makes the entire season of waiting make sense in a new and comprehensive way. Do not scroll. Stay right here. Archangel Michael is not finished speaking over your life. The word that is going to change your perspective on everything the doubters said is still coming. I want to address the doubters directly now. Not with bitterness, with truth, because some of them are still present in your life and you need to know how to move in relation to them in this new season. And some of them are watching from a distance and you need to know what their watching means and what it does not mean. The ones who doubted you and are still present in your life are going to have a specific experience in the coming season. They are going to watch something happen that they did not expect, and their response to that unexpected thing is going to reveal something important about who they actually are. Some of them are going to surprise you. The doubt they carried was never malicious. It was limited. And when their limitation is confronted by evidence that exceeds it, they are going to be genuinely happy for you. They are going to recalibrate quickly and generously, and they are going to become part of the celebration. Those people are worth keeping. Their previous doubt was a limitation of vision, not a limitation of love. And people whose love exceeds their vision are worth having close. Others are going to struggle. The revision required by your rising is going to be too costly for them to make quickly or easily. They are going to go quiet. They are going to find ways to minimize what is happening or to locate the exceptional circumstances that explain it in ways that do not require them to have been wrong about you in a fundamental way. They are going to manage the dissonance rather than surrendering to it. And that is their process to move through. You do not need to manage it for them. You do not need to make your rising smaller to make their revision easier. You simply need to keep rising and let them find their own way to a new understanding of what they were looking at all along. The ones who doubted you from a distance, who are watching from positions they chose when they withdrew their belief, are going to witness what is happening from wherever they position themselves. And the distance that felt like their advantage, the remove that felt like safety from the vulnerability of believing in something that might not work out, is now the thing that keeps them from being close to what is actually happening. They will watch. Some of them will reach out. And when they do, you do not owe them the interior of what God has been building. You can be gracious, and you can be whole, and you can operate from a place of genuine freedom from needing anything from them. Because the validation you no longer need from them is the evidence that the rising is real. Share this message with someone who has been doubted and who needs to know that the doubt is not the end of the story. Someone who is still in the middle of the season, where the vision is clear on the inside and the evidence is thin on the outside. Someone who needs to hear that the gap between what they carry and what is visible is not a gap between what they believe and what is true. It is the gap between where they are in the process and where the process is going. And the process is going somewhere extraordinary. Subscribe to this channel so that you never miss another message that heaven sends through this space for your season. What is being released through here is specific to the people who need it, and you want to be in position to receive every word that is prepared for your name. My beloved child, you stayed until the end. Through this whole message, you stayed. And in staying, you did something that mirrors exactly what you have been doing in the larger season of your life. You stayed when staying required something. You held on when letting go would have been easier. You kept your face toward what heaven was saying, even when the noise of doubt was loud and sustained and coming from people whose opinions carried weight. That is the same thing you have been doing in your life for this entire season. And it is that specific kind of staying, that quality of faithfulness under pressure, that has built the person who is now standing at the edge of everything the doubters said would not happen. They doubted you. They doubted the assignment. They doubted the gifts. They doubted the timing. They doubted the vision. They doubted the possibility that someone like you in circumstances like yours could arrive at the place you were moving toward with the certainty you were moving toward it with. And now watch. Not because you need to prove something to them, but because what God finishes always speaks for itself. Because a life that rises after sustained doubt is a testimony that does not require a narrator. The evidence narrates itself. The opened doors speak. The emerged gifts speak. The repositioned influence speaks. The fruit of what was built in private during the season, when the doubters were making their assessments, speaks louder than any argument you could have made in the middle of the waiting. You were not wrong about yourself. You were not wrong about your assignment. You were not wrong about what God placed in you and where it was going. You were simply in a season that required you to hold what you knew to be true without the support of visible evidence, and you held it. Not perfectly, not without moments of wavering, but you held it. And the holding produced the person who is now ready to receive what the holding was always pointing toward. The doubters are about to witness what they did not believe in, and what they witness is going to be undeniable. Not because it is dramatic, because it is real. And real things have a weight that performance never produces, and doubt never diminishes. Rise. The season is here. Heaven is backing every step. The assignment is intact. The gifts are ready. The doors are opening. The connections are forming. The fruit is coming. Rise, and let the watching take care of itself.